What's going on, guys? This is Jeff. So we're gonna make this video to talk about flying drones in Hawaii. People want to know, they come to Hawaii, or before they come to Hawaii, they say all these videos where people are flying their drones, getting beautiful landscapes, and really for a drone photographer, Hawaii is kind of like Disneyland. So it's a really amazing place to brush up on your drone flying skills. I mean, obviously if you're in North Dakota and you're trying to train flying drones, it can get kind of boring because it all looks the same. You might have a couple places you can fly, whereas in Hawaii you can so many places you can fly and get awesome video or photos that will make you so proud. So some things to know about flying drones in Hawaii. Number one is obviously you can't fly in national parks. Okay, now what that means is if you are inside a national park and you launch from inside a national park, you cannot do that. So same thing for state parks. Takeoff and landings need to occur outside of state parks and national parks. So if you're going to take off and fly over one of the state parks, assuming that it's, remember, 5 miles away from the airport, if it's within 5 miles to the airport, you need to contact the tower, the air traffic control tower, and let them know that your intentions are to fly, at the beach or at a location close to the airport. If you do not get permission to fly near the airport, you are in, violation. So you will need to always get permission if you plan to fly within 5 miles to the airport. If you're trying to fly commercially, you will need an FAA 107, okay? Those guidelines are on the FAA.gov website. And here's just some of the things that it says. Unmanned aircraft must weigh less than 55 pounds. Visual line of sight must be maintained at all times. Okay, you must fly 30 minutes. You can fly no earlier than 30 minutes before twilight and no later than 30 minutes after sunset. Ground speed, you can't go any faster than 80 miles an hour ground speed. Can't go above 400 feet. That means that wherever you're standing, so if you're on a poly, if you're on a mountain and you go 400 feet, you can fly up to 400 feet. But if you're on the ground and you're trying to fly above 400 feet, above the mountain, you can't do that. So it's 400 feet from wherever you are with the remote. Minimum weather visibility of 3 miles. Okay, so obviously no drinking, smoking weed, or anything when you're operating these aircraft. So you need to be in a good state of mind. No careless or reckless operations. Okay. You can't carry anything. Don't try and get cute and try and carry something. I know you drone fishermen out there want to come to Hawaii and try and fish for tiger sharks or something. Just kidding. No, you guys know you can't catch tiger sharks like that, right? But let's see here. So this is just general outlines that apply to Hawaii. So federal aviation laws apply to Hawaii for the United States. Another thing, and I point that out because some of you might be from another country coming to the United States. I will post this PDF link in the comments area so you guys can reference this PDF as far as federal laws. Another thing to know about flying in Hawaii, you might have seen people flying over the lava flow, for example. If you're flying over the lava flow, you have to bear in mind that some of that might be in the national park, but because the current lava flow is on the border of the national park and state or county land, people are saying that if they take off from in the county land and then they fly over the national park where the lava flow ocean entry may be, that's how they were able to get that footage. But then they put in a temporary flight restriction, or what is it? TLR, TFR, temporary flight restriction around that the ocean entry. So now you're not supposed to fly over the ocean entry, but previously you were able to fly over the lava. I know a lot of people want to have this idea of flying their drone over the lava, but you need to check and see if there's a TFR for any of that. Also, before you come here, you can go on before you fly, doc, and check, see if there's any flight restrictions. The only place I know on the Big Island that has a flight restrictions is in Volcano National Park, Mauna Kea, and obviously if you're flying close to the airports, you have to keep that in mind. If you do intend to fly by the airport and you're asking for permission for just regular non-commercial flights, make sure you let them know you won't be trying to fly above the tree line. I think it's better if you don't try to fly above the tree line, you know, because if you're flying a drone, you know, and you're not above a 45-foot palm tree, I don't really think they're gonna consider you a threat, because no airplane's gonna be flying at a tree level, right? Now, if you're trying to go 400 feet up within a couple miles of the airport, now that's probably not the best idea. That's just my personal tips. You want to clarify all that with the tower, though. So if you're calling the tower and you're requesting permission, you know, you're going to want to say, because there is beautiful places within 5 miles of the airports. You know, Hilo has them, Kona has them, Kahului has them, Honolulu has them, you know, Kauai has them, and Lahui. So you got to get permission. You can go online and type in the name of the airport, control tower, ask to speak with them, and sometimes they'll say yes. Let's see here. Another place that is very scenic is the Napali Coast. If you are, some people have, you might have seen some people with beautiful Napali Coast video footage. Odds are they're probably taking off from a boat out to sea, outside of the park. So you're going to want to make sure you get permission from the proper authorities before you do that. Like, you know, maybe you might call the county and let them know your intentions and see if that's a problem, or see what necessary steps need to be taken to do that. If you plan to fly in Honolulu near like Kaneohe or some of the other military bases, you can't do that, because if you're too close to the military installations, you know, that's just, you can't do that. So you want to take a look at Oahu really good, and Kauai, where they have other military bases, and they're gonna have one in Mauna Kea. You want to make sure that you're not going to be flying in an area where there's a military base. Some other things to know about Hawaii besides the rules and regulations, because, you know, most of it's pretty much been covered already, and I'm not here to try and be an authoritarian. I'm just saying, be safe. Don't be reckless. Okay? You know, don't fly over people, like large crowds. If you do fly over large crowds, just make sure you follow the law. I always say, just, if you're buzzing, obviously if you're buzzing or flying over a town, just keep on proceeding. Don't hover, you know. If you are in an area where you're filming where a crowd is, like say the Ironman, you have to be over the ocean or over a plot of grass where there's no people below you. You know, these just basic things like that. It's pretty cool if you can go out on a charter boat and during whale season, and they let you launch your drone from the charter boat. It's pretty cool if you can go out marlin fishing and launch the drone when you're marlin fishing. One thing I could say about takeoff and landings from at sea, those are difficult. They're trying to make drones that can actually land on a platform while it's a moving platform, but I don't think the technology is there yet. Basically, the problem with a boat, let's just say when you're marlin fishing, it's trawling, it'll be out there, it'll be going, and the boat's moving, so you got to constantly be moving. You know, you're flying in, you're trying to catch it, and so it's moving with the boat. It's constant inertia, so that's kind of tricky. So you want to always launch off the fantail, off the tail of the boat, not the bow, not the front end. If you launch in the front end, you know, the drone's going to take off and the boat's going to go like that, and you might hit one of the masts. So that can happen. Let's see here. By the way, guys, I do have to tell you in this video, if you have any questions, you need to ask the proper authorities. If it's in doubt, ask somebody. Okay. That basically, if you're around a national park, military base, an airport, ask somebody, ask the proper authority. You can fly in Hawaii and you can get great footage here, okay? People do fly drones quite often. It's just, you need to make sure your takeoff and landings are outside the parks. You can fly over the park. I believe you can fly over the park. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm with the government or an authority, but from what I've understood about the law, because there is gray area with this law, is you can take off and land as long as you are outside the park, okay? State and NPS, National Park Service. Good times to fly in Hawaii are sunset. Sunsets with drones are really popular. They call it the golden hour. I think the golden hour is about 30 minutes before the sun goes down and about 30 minutes after. You can't fly any more than 30 minutes after the sun's already set, because that's after, you know, the sun is set, and that's what the law says. If you fly mid-afternoon, you know, that's when the sun is really bright here. So you're gonna want to make sure your camera settings are set correctly, because you could white out. The sun does get really bright. Other than that, I mean, if you need to do a commercial job, you can get Verifly, which is a commercial app, or insurance for your drone, up to $1 million policy. You can just get it right there on the spot. Other things to know about flying in Hawaii, just some things that have been really photogenic for me is palm trees, sunsets, white sand beaches, black sand beaches, mostly early morning hours and evening hours. As far as daytime goes, it can be beautiful, but you know, you're gonna risk getting too much sun. Another thing that's really been awesome is yeah, I mean, everything about Hawaii is awesome, to be honest with you. So when it comes to flying drones, just make sure you pay attention to this FAA sheet, and make sure you pay attention to the airports and the military bases, and you should be fine. If you're gonna fly above the tree line in certain areas, I would say just be cautious. You know, try not to go too high, even though it says go to 400 feet. You know, try not to go any higher than that. Also, if you're flying in Waikiki, I don't think you can do that really. If you're like, don't be trying to fly over the main drag like all wild like that, unless you have permission. So I try to cover everything in this video. I know there's a lot of things that I went over, but basically it can be done, and it will be successful for you, and you will enjoy it, and you will have fun. It does rain sometimes in some of the jungles, but hey, what can you do? All right, thanks for watching.